Ladies and gentlemen, Zap Brannigan left me a comment a little while back saying that they were still having some trouble with Legend and Master Tier lost sectors on Warlock, and inquired about a run and gun survivability build. They were even considering moving over to a Titan. And I don't think I could sleep well at night if I just sat idle, knowing there was something I could do to prevent that. No offense, Titans. Now generally, when I hear that someone is struggling in these activities, I think it's more related to strategy and execution rather than the setup. Not that the loadout isn't important, you do need to bring along specific weapons or abilities to deal with champions, and you may need to be able to cover a couple different shield types, with these things varying from lost sector to lost sector. Past that though, intentful movement, positioning, situational awareness, and knowledge of combatant tendencies will usually get you through even if you're a bit underleveled. But a build was asked for, so a build I shall present. And I'm going to try to keep this build more on the simple side, so if you're a newer player or you're working with a limited arsenal, hopefully you can put this build into practice when chasing down your lost sector exotics. To start out, we're going to be going back to Voidwalker, a great subclass that doesn't lean quite as hard on the seasonal artifact as Solar does currently, so this will have some longevity. For our aspects, first and foremost, Feed the Void. Void ability kills activate Devour. While Devour is active, any final blow that you deliver from any source restores health. All of it, fills you right back up, and resets the Devour timer. And that's the video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to leave it a like, and oh, you'd like me to elaborate a little bit further? If you insist. Aspect 2, Child of the Old Gods. Cast the Rift to spawn a Void Soul. Once you damage a target, the Void Soul flies to their location, damaging the enemy and applying a 15% debuff from the Weaken effect. And I do like running this with a Healing Rift, because we also get grenade and melee energy back from the Drain. Things that we can use to activate or reactivate Devour if it goes down. And if you down a target being affected by the Void Soul, you will get class ability energy refunded for more frequent Void Souls. Fragments, Echo of Persistence. It's going to knock 10 points off your recovery stat, but it will extend the Devour timer from 11 seconds to 16 seconds. Echo of Obscurity. Finish your final blows, grant invisibility. I mainly just use this to finish off champions if I need to make a clean getaway, but we do get those recovery points back here as well. For the other two available fragment slots, dealer's choice. Void really does have some nice options to improve your ability cooldowns or just up your overall lethality. A lot of these fragments are going to work just fine. Go ahead and pick the ones you think you're going to get the most out of. For the grenade, here again, any of them will work, but I do find the Vortex grenade to be the most consistent and reliable. For your super, I think the safest play is just to pick one of the two Nova Bombs, but if you really feel compelled to run Nova Warp, I'm not going to stop you. I don't recommend it because I don't think burning your super for ad clearing is necessary, and you can find yourself in a bad spot when your super eventually runs out. But if you like living on the edge, do your thing. For our Guardian stat line, we are Warlocks, so high recovery and high discipline do tend to work quite nicely. But bumping up the resilience just a touch could prove helpful since we are in Legend and Master Tier lost sectors where enemies do tend to hit a bit harder. For the weapons, there's nothing really special here, and no exotics either. In the kinetic and energy slots, I just threw on a couple weapons that I was comfortable with using that could cover champion and shield types. In the heavy slot, you might want to try out a sword. They're nice for jumping on champions once they're stunned. It doesn't have to be Hero of Aegis, just one with sharp edges that you can hit the baddies with. For the armor, here again, no exotics because I don't know what you have access to, but I do like using Elemental Well mods to supplement the ability energy regeneration. If you don't have full access to them, this build will still work, you might just have to slow things down a notch. For me, it's usually a couple copies of Elemental Ordnance with a Bountiful Wells mod to generate multiple wells on a grenade kill, and Melee Well Maker so I can snag a well on a charged melee kill. For the last slot, you do have a choice. If your main ad clearing weapon can match your subclass, I'd go Font of Might. Picking up an Elemental Well gives you a 25% weapon damage boost for weapons carrying that element, and sometimes the best way to survive is just to kill your enemies faster. If that's just not going to work out, you could try Well of Tenacity. It only slots on Void Armor, but when picking up an Elemental Well, it will give you a brief period of 40% damage resistance. Not necessarily ideal, but it does add some survivability when on the go. And for the last few mods that I do recommend, the general elemental resistance mods on your chest piece. Right now we have Armor of the Dying Star in the seasonal artifact, pulling double duty versus Void and Solar. And a similar mod has been available in the artifact for the last few seasons. With these mods, you'll see a 15% damage reduction for one copy and 25% for two. This is actually down from what they were providing in seasons past, but some damage reduction is better than no damage reduction, and damage resistance effects do stack multiplicatively, so I still think there is a good bit of value in these mods. And that's all the pieces that I'm going to suggest, but if you do want to bring along an exotic weapon or use an exotic armor piece, feel free, and slot in any additional mods as you see fit. When putting this build into practice, even though each Legend and Master Tier lost sector are a bit different, I more or less approach them in the same way. For each separate mini encounter, my first objective is to get Devour rolling right off the bat, and then get to clearing ads, refreshing my health with each kill. I typically try to save some of the bigger targets for after the trash has been cleared out, but I'm not afraid to take them early if I see an opening, or if they could be problematic in the fight. But when doing this, especially since a sword is my main champion buster, I can find myself in a bad spot. Finishing the target and proccing the invisibility allows me to pull back and reset for a moment before continuing the fight. It's a defensive tactic, but it can open the door for more aggressive gameplay, which was one of the objectives of this build. For the Void Soul Rift, use it when you see fit. Drop it early to help clear out ads since the Rift energy is going to be refunded very quickly. If you need grenade or melee energy, drop the Rift, stick the Void Soul on some targets, and let those meters fill back up. If you want some help with a big boy target, that Void Soul does apply a debuff and will slow their movement just a touch. Or you could just use it like a standard healing rift. Save it until you need a shot of health, and then figure out what you want to do with the Void Soul from there. This is a very useful tool, don't neglect it. And be sure to lean on your grenade and melee as well. Between the Void Souls and the Elemental Wells that we should be collecting, they're going to be up often enough to warrant liberal usage. The whole build just feeds into itself very nicely, and should be a solid setup for getting through lost sectors in a timely manner with limited risk. Hopefully this helps out any of you Warlocks out there that might still be struggling in the content. Throw on this build or something similar to it, get out there and start claiming your exotics. And that's going to end the more formal portion of this build video, but I did want to give something else a try to maybe add a little more value to the content. I have a full run through of the K1 Crew Quarters Lost Sector on the Moon that I will walk you through. Hopefully it can give you a better sense of what this build can do in real time, and I'll walk you through my thought process as we move through the Lost Sector. We're going to be dealing with Barrier and Overload champions, there are solar shielded enemies, and Arcburn is turned on. My setup is very similar to the one that I was running in the build breakdown, but I did opt to bring along a trace rifle to deal with the overloads. In our Void subclass menus, everything is still the same. It wouldn't make much sense to change it at this point. And for the two Dealer's Choice fragments, I chose to use Echo of Remnants and Echo of Expulsion. And I will leave you a Destiny item manager link to this build in the video's description if you would like to copy it over directly. And as we get into it here, first thing I did was throw a grenade. I wanted to get those two exposed enemies downed and get Devour rolling. Void Soul goes out, we got Wells on the ground, and right here, our grenade energy is topped back off. And this is where I realized I made an error. I still had 2 copies of Armor of the Dying Star on, which gives us solar and void resistance. These are all fallen, so pretty much all the damage is going to be arc, and that arc damage is up by 50% due to the modifier. So just versus these Dregs and Vandals, I'm getting smacked around pretty good. But right here our first Overload champion comes out, so I drop the Well, stick the Void Soul on him, make sure to kill the Solar Shanks in the doorway, and then hop on the Overload with the sword. I ended them with a finisher, procced invisibility, which here wasn't necessary because everything else in the area is already dead, but better safe than sorry. But onward to the next encounter, making sure to take care of these Exploder Shanks in the room. If I were to just run in here head down, they would probably kill me, even though I am slightly overleveled. And this part right here can be a pain. It can go sour in a hurry if a few things don't work out right. You get a lot of ads coming at you, both from the upper tier and the lower tier. And there's really not a whole lot of actual cover that you can safely place yourself behind. And you do want to get rid of as many ads as possible, as quickly as possible, because we are going to have a barrier servitor coming down the hill. Once it gets itself into position and starts shielding all the ads in the area, this part of the Lost Sector can turn into a slog. I was able to get rid of a lot of them, but not all of them, which leaves a pocket of concentrated fire coming at you anytime you try to get a peek on the champion. And what happened here was really best case scenario. That servitor settled down in front of the tunnel, and the trash ads kind of started funneling at me one by one. I was able to move back a little bit and pull them away from the servitor's protection, and pick them off with my primary as they came at me. Every now and again that barrier servitor would try to get a little cheeky and get an angle on me, so I always kept one eye on him, and if I didn't like where he was at, I tried to put some damage on him to get him to teleport away. And this is basically how the next 20 seconds played out, so in the interest of time, I'm just going to fast forward it a little bit. And with all the ads in the area eliminated, we can jump on the champion. And I knew I wanted to finish him off quick here because there are more enemies further up the hill. The most worrisome being the Sniper Vandals. If I leave myself exposed for an extended window, and they have enough time to get 2 shots on me, I'm gonna go down. So I wait for the shield to go up, stun them, grenade them, charge them with the sword, and put them down. And just something to make note of here as I pick away at these trash ads, we have not lost our Devour since the very first grenade that I threw in this Lost Sector. It's been up for almost 3 minutes at this point, and I'm sure, as you've noticed, it's been helping immensely along the way. But we have an Overload champion directly ahead of us, and a few more trash ads to take care of. But I'm being very careful to watch my positioning. I am trying to keep the pace up and play more on the aggressive side, but I don't want to turn playing aggressive into playing stupid. There's still a Sniper Vandal or 2 up there next to him, and across the chasm to the right there are 2 solar shielded Tracer Shanks. If I move out of cover and get out of position, and they both pop me at the same time, I'm dead. Especially since my Devour just ran out. So I stun the Overload, put the Void Soul on him in hopes that he's going to move as soon as he gets out of his stun, and deal with the Tracer Shanks. At this point now, it's just a matter of getting up the hill to the Overload champion without taking too much damage on the way. So I kind of just move between stuns. I stun him, move up a little bit, but don't jump him immediately because I'm sure it's going to run out before I can deal enough damage. Now that I'm up a little closer, when the next opportunity to get him with the sword comes up, I'll be in position. So I knock him off with the finisher, proc invisibility, which here again didn't really help all that much, but a couple swipes on the 2 remaining dregs, and we're on our way. So once we jump over to Chasm, we are on our way to the boss area, but there is still a hurdle to cross before we can turn our attention to the boss. As we round the corner, we're going to have a couple Solar Shielded Shanks, a couple trash ads up on the platform, with another barrier champion. And we got the low ground in this fight. It can be tough to get a clean shot on the enemies up on the ledge. This part of the fight can get a little dancy as well. Pretty much every ad up there is shielded by the barrier servitor, and there's really no cover to run to if you're going to try to move up closer. So the main priority is to take out that champion first. The safest thing to do is to keep cover behind this pod and chip away at him. We're not necessarily running and gunning here, but this is another situation where I'd rather be alive than aggressive and dead. Eventually though, if you break that barrier champion's shield enough times, and cause him to drop the protection on the ads, you will have a window to pick him off and then move up and deal with the champion. And rather than hop on him with the sword here, I did choose to finish off the servitor with the trace rifle. I probably would have been okay cutting him down since we do have Devour back up and active, but I didn't want to take too much incoming fire from the left. At this point, for the time being, we only have a couple trash ads up on the higher platform with the boss. None of them really pose too much of a threat, not even the heavy shank. You can kind of just use this ramp, slide up and down, and get shots off when you see fit. Now, I just spent the time to clear out the trash ads and kind of chip away at the boss with the primary. I didn't aggressively go after him. I opted to hang back a little bit because I know once a third of his health bar is knocked off, we're going to have the final champion to deal with. I wanted to have my grenade up, I wanted to have my rift ready, and this is what I've been saving my super for the entire Lost Sector. Right there, a champion has appeared. It's another barrier servitor, and he is accompanied by more ads. So the plan is to jump on him with everything I got. I don't even want to give him a chance to get his shields up. And things could have went worse, but I'm just not sure how. It teleported away from the grenade. An ad ate the direct impact of the Nova Bomb. Shield's already up, Sword Swing was wasted, I'm in a bad spot trying to knock that shield off with a pulse rifle. By some stroke of luck, I got the stun in and lived through all that. Unfortunately, the Void Soul secured the kill before I was able to proc invisibility. The only thing that saved me there was the Devour. Now, if I were to have went down, it's not the end of the world. I still have 8 revives and the fight's pretty much done. It's just going to be a few ads coming at you here and there as you whittle down the boss. And everything's cleared out enough, and there's plenty of cover in the area for you to position yourself accordingly to put damage on your enemies. This is not a very threatening boss. The hard part is done. At this point, it's just a formality. But hey, let me know if you enjoyed the walkthrough portion of this video. I thought it might have been a nice way to supplement the build portion. I figured I could explain things a little bit deeper and you could see things in action without me using my movie magic to hide all my deaths. But let me know either way in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to leave it a like and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel if you'd like to catch more of my Destiny 2 content in the near future. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this build breakdown. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.